It is the second serpent that has infiltrated medicine. It has convinced us that paying for poison is the cure for cellular poisoning. It is no accident that this symbol was first adopted by the Army. The bogus germ theory driving allopathic medicine states that microorganisms invade our bodies and require military defense. This model of disease, the warfare model, where illness comes from an uncontrollable enemy outside of us, necessitates a drug from the medical machine as our only chance of survival. We fight this imagined enemy with chemical weapons and machines, just as any warfare. Allopathic medicine blames these enemy diseases on bad genes, or evil germs, mysterious and deadly cancers, unexplained autoimmune and neurodegenerative diseases, and many more, always outside of our control, with causes unknown and no ability to address or reverse ourselves. Thus, we are dependent on the medical system to rescue us. How did this happen? In 1847, the American Medical Association was founded, the largest association of medical students and physicians, both doctors of medicine and doctors of osteopathy, which is a type of alternative medicine, much of which is now said to have no therapeutic value and is labeled pseudoscience by the medical cartel. From the very beginning, the AMA urged all state governments to adopt measures to register all births, marriages, and deaths, which is a form of commerce itself, the way shipments are registered to port authorities as property of the receiving country's government. In 1897, the AMA incorporated into a private corporation, and by 1899, they were already pushing for mandatory, untested smallpox vaccinations. Then, in 1901, the AMA started a committee on national legislation, starting the trend of non-elected NGOs directing elected lawmakers' policy decisions. In 1905, they created the Council on Pharmacy and Chemistry to set standards for drug manufacturing and advertising, asking drug companies to show proof of effectiveness of their drugs or pay corrupt bribes to Doc Simmons in order to advertise those drugs in the Journal of the American Medical Association. They basically became the first drug catalog sales reps. Obviously, drug manufacturers had great incentive to get in good favors with Doc Simmons and the AMA, later known as the Big Pharma revolving door. But the real horror started in 1904, when the AMA founded the Council on Medical Education to regulate medical schools and what type of medicine could be taught in them. As osteopathic and homeopathic medicine had no commercial profit incentive to these snakes, they had to go. From its earliest inception, the American Medical Association has had one principal objective: attaining and defending a total monopoly of the practice of medicine in the United States. From its outset, the AMA made the unholy trinity of allopathy the basis of its practice. Allopathy set up an intense rivalry with the prevalent 19th century school of medicine, the practice of homeopathy. The AMA is one of the biggest frauds in history, involved in medical bribery, racketeering, corruption, coercion, and deception. The former quack heads of the organization, like the failed journalist Doc Simmons, who never attended a medical school or worked for an actual hospital and his protege, Dr. Morris Fishbein, an aspiring circus trapeze artist and part-time opera singer who never worked a day as a physician in his life, but somehow headed the American Medical Association, were to set the standard for the disgraceful fraud still going on to this day. You can find the shocking details of this in the first 2 chapters of the book, Murder by Injection. A free version is linked in the description section below. In 1907, the American Medical Association involved the Carnegie Foundation in elaborating a book-length study of medical education in the United States and Canada, also known as the Carnegie Foundation Bulletin No. 4. Its author, Abraham Flexner, was an ambitious educator, neither a physician nor a medical scientist, but the brother of Simon Flexner, employed by the Rockefeller Institute for Medical Research. Later on, Flexner became the first director of the Rockefeller philanthropy programs in medical education. Andrew Carnegie was regarded as the second richest man in history after John D. Rockefeller. While Carnegie played a leading role in the American steel industry and education, Rockefeller was interested in the oil industry and medical research. Flexner's report was published in 1910, and the purpose was to improve the quality of medical service by establishing professional medical education based on mainstream scientific principles. But what was accepted as science in the early 20th century? The theory of materialism, rising in the 17th century, holds that the only existing thing is matter. Everything is composed of material, and all phenomena, including consciousness, human soul, and spirit, are the result of material interactions. In other words, matter is the only substance. Scientific materialism, or physicalism, became the philosophical position of the early 20th century. The main statement of physicalism is that there are no kinds of things other than physical things. Before the Flexner Report was released, twice as many physicians practiced alternative medicine than conventional allopathic medicine, and medical knowledge was taught in small private schools all over the United States. The report changed everything, and backed by the police power of each American state, medical schools were obliged to follow the trends set by the Carnegie Foundation. The Flexner Report stated that the human body belongs to the animal world. It is put together of tissues and organs. It grows, reproduces itself, decays according to general laws. It is liable to attack by hostile physical and biological agencies. Herbs, homeopathy, chiropractic, and massage were demoted as quackery. Small medical schools were either closed or merged into universities financially supported by large industrial companies. In less than 10 years, the number of medical schools dropped from 650 to just 50. The number of medical students decreased from 7,500 to 2,500, and they were unable to afford the high education fees. The report included a detailed regulation of medical education and pharmacology as the only solution against dreadful diseases. According to the present-day consequences of this report, no medical school can be created without the permission of government, and medical research adheres fully to the protocols of scientific research of the 1910s, materialism, medication, and vaccination. Supply of physicians were restricted, incomes of the remaining practitioners raised, and conventional medical schools began to be centralized. In 1997, the WHO obtained full control over medicine as the validity of the Flexner Report extended worldwide. And what was the long-term result of reforming medical education and practice? Hardly any news on the media. According to the 2003 medical report, Death by Medicine, 784,000 people in the United States die every year from conventional medicine mistakes. This is 16,400% of the victims of September 11th, 2001, the equivalent of 6 jumbo jet crashes a day for an entire year. 106,000 of these deaths each year are from prescription drugs. The United States spends $282 billion annually on deaths due to medical mistakes, or iatrogenic deaths. According to a 1995 U.S. iatrogenic report, the annual automobile accident mortality rate is 45,000 people. On the other hand, annually over 1 million patients get injured in hospitals, and 280,000 of these cases result in death. In 2004, the U.S. spent $1.4 trillion, 15.5% of the GDP on healthcare. More than 1/3 was paid to the pharmaceutical industry. In 2010 alone, the top 20 pharmaceutical companies profited the equivalent of $97 per person times 6 billion people. Back in 2001, Pfizer was the #1 most profitable company with $7.8 billion profit of all the Fortune 500 companies. In 2002, the combined profits of the top 10 drug companies of the Fortune 500 were nearly $36 billion. That is more than the profits of the other 490 businesses put together. After 100 years, we must raise the question, what went wrong? Despite the huge amount of money accumulated by the pharma industry, there are more dreadful diseases and sick people today than ever. You will find the answers in the Flexner Report, a document that created and enabled the terms of a centralized medical system and the pharma industry to take over the control of healthcare for profit.